Good afternoon from wherever you're joining us. Welcome to this session hosted by the Commercial Agriculture for Smallholders and Agribusinesses, CASA. On behalf of CASA, let me welcome you all to this session. This session is entitled Making the Case for Investing in Smallholder Poultry and Aquaculture Agribusinesses for Accelerated Growth and Enhancement of Food Systems in Malawi. As we proceed, let me briefly talk about CASA. CASA is funded by the Commonwealth and Development Office, formerly known as DFID, and we thank them so much for funding this particular program. And basically, it seeks to increase global investment in the smallholder agribusinesses, promoting equitable commercial relationship while increasing smallholders' incomes, food security, as well as climate resilience. How do we do this? We do this by demonstrating how this can be done effectively, bridging gaps for investors, but also showcasing successful business models. Just to mention, to say, as we do this, we would want to make sure that investors and policymakers have the rightful information that can help them to invest in the two particular value chains that we're working in Malawi. We are grateful to Accra for giving us this opportunity that we can host this session. And we believe that through this session, investors as well as policymakers will access that particular information that will lead to facilitating profitable as well as inclusive agribusiness models and investments in Malawi. In our presentations today, having accessed that particular information, we envisage that that will help us, and as well as the SMEs, contribute towards boosting economic growth and raising the demand for smallholder produce. Through the involvement of CASA in the AGRF, we have seen over the years that we're able to reflect how we work, the diversity of our program, in terms of ensure that we support and inform investors with the rightful information and also to create that particular conducive environment for sustainable investment. Therefore, just to mention that CASA, among the many things that we do, we support SMEs to help them secure commercial investments by supporting them in terms of the investment readiness, and this includes development of strategic plans as well as business plans as well as investment plans. But we also support them in terms of increasing the participation of smallholder farmers. In this session today, we are going to have 4 panelists. We'll have a panelist that will talk about the case for Malawi as the destination for agricultural investment, but also we'll have 3 SMEs that will pitch, talking about investment opportunities in poultry, aquaculture, and then we are going to have questions thereafter that you can have time to reflect and interact with the investors, the SMEs. And having said that, there is no better way to start than to talk about Malawi as a case for Malawi as an investment destination. And therefore, let me welcome Felix, who is going to talk about why people should come to Malawi and invest. Felix, over to you.
Frank, I think we have Pilira actually on the line. So, hi Pilira. We'll ask you to start the video, and I'll unmute you now.
Yeah, Pilila, please welcome Pilila Kafagamoyo. She's the acting director for investment and promotion at Malawi Investment and Trade Center. Pilila, please go ahead and share with us why should people come to Malawi and invest.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
We can hear you. Would it be possible for you to turn your video on so that we can all see you as well?
Okay. Would is that okay?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, I need to thank you for inviting us to be part of this very important forum. I'll just go straight to share with you what MITC does and the investment opportunities that are there. As a way of background, Malawi Investment and Trade Center is a statutory company that was established under the Investment and Export Promotion Act of 2012. The Act actually made two institutions, the then Malawi Investment Promotion Agency, MIPA, and the Malawi Export Promotion Council, MEPEC. And the core functions of MITC is to attract and promote and also to facilitate investment and trade in priority sectors that have been set by government. And we also act as a focal entry point for both local and foreign investors. And we also facilitate investors through our one-stop service center. This covers the issues of immigration permits, like processing the investors, taking the investors through the investment process itself. We also provide what we call aftercare services to investors and exporters that are registered. Basically, this aftercare service is a service that we provide to the registered investors just to understand what are the issues that are affecting their dairy operations. And these issues, we also identify, we're able to identify investment opportunities, but we also, there are other issues that investors raise that need to be sorted out by government. So we also identify this through the investment, through the aftercare. We also process and issue investment certificates to investors that are operating in different sectors. And we also brand Malawi as the preferable investment destination. MITC, we facilitate the investors through, as I said, the one-stop service center. The one-stop service center, it houses 4 government institutions. We have the Malawi Revenue Authority that help us to guide investors on issues relating to tax incentives, but also they help us to provide information to investors on the procedures of accessing incentives that are applicable in different sectors. And also they help us to provide guidance on the procedures of clearing of goods, and also facilitating investors to register for domestic taxes. We also have the registrar of companies. They also help us to guide business registrations in accordance to the Companies Act. And also they help us to facilitate the business registration itself. We also have the Department of Immigration. They provide guidance on immigration requirements, and also guide investors on what type of permits they have to fall under. We have the business resident permits and the temporary employment permits. And also they also help us to facilitate the processing and issuance of these immigration permits. Then we have the Ministry of Lands that help us to identify and allocate land for investment purposes. And also they help us to guide investors on land matters, and also facilitating the land acquisition process. In addition to this, we also have other services that are provided by MITC. We link investors to financial institutions. We work closely with different financial institutions. So if we identify investors that will need financial assistance, we link them to such financial institutions. And we also identify joint venture partners. There are some investors that come to us and they say, okay, they are looking for joint venture partners, maybe in the managerial side or on the financial side. So we do assist in identifying and linking these joint venture partners. As I said earlier on, we provide the aftercare services to those that are operating under our investment certificate. And we also facilitate the investors through the investment process itself. We also provide what we call business clinic trainings. These are trainings that are provided mainly to those that are in trading. Our trade department, they once in a while identify like SMEs that need to be trained on. We had this, I think the past 2 weeks, we've had it in Blantyre. We also had it in Lilongwe and also in Mzuzu. Investment opportunities, as you all know, we promote the priority sectors. That is the main sector is the agriculture and the agro processing. Then we also have other sectors like the energy, manufacturing, tourism, infrastructure development, and also in the mining sectors. In agriculture, Malawi being an agricultural base, there are a lot of opportunities that are offered. That is both in the agriculture itself and also in the agro processing. There are opportunities that we are promoting in the commercial farming, in plantation agriculture, for example, the macadamia nuts, the rubber plantations, and there are also opportunities to add value to crops such as the soya products, to produce the soya products, to add value to cotton, processing of the pigeon peas into dough, processing of tea, sugarcane products, and other value chains like in the grain legumes, the horticultural crops, the livestock and the fisheries, and also in other crops like the roots and the tubers like the cassava, the Irish potatoes, and the sweet potatoes. There is also the upcoming crop, the industrial hemp, the cannabis crop, that is also providing a lot of opportunities. So people can grow and also process these. And again, to mention that Malawi government through MITC, they are establishing the special economic zones. Government has allocated land, 4 sites, where these special economic zones are going to be established. That's in the south. We have the Matindi and Chukumura area, and in the Lilongwe we have the area 55. Then we have in the north there is the Dunduzu. So there are other opportunities as well to develop and also to manage the special economic zones. I think for now, if I can stop there, if there are any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pilila, for that wonderful sharing, setting the tone about investment opportunities in Malawi. Pilila, there are questions, but then we'll have a special time that will take questions after all the panelists have spoken. Pilila has spoken, he has talked about a number of value chains, but for the sake of this particular sharing, we'll talk about 2 particular value chains that CASA is focusing on. And therefore, let me move forward to introduce our next panelist, Maya Stewart. Maya Konja Stewart, she's the Managing Director of Lenzemil. She co-founded the company together with her husband, and she's going to talk about opportunities in aquaculture. Maya, over to you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Good morning and good afternoon, Africa. My name is Maya Stewart. I am the co-founder and managing director of Lenzemil. Next slide, please. Lenzemil is a family-owned business operating as an independent feed mill with 50% female and 50% male ownership and 1 co-founder as youth. Lenzemil aims to address the existing supply gap in the livestock feed subsector by offering highest quality and competitive animal feeds for smallholder and semi-commercial livestock farmers nationwide. Lenzemil aims to address 3 major market gaps in the livestock subsector, including, firstly, quality and pricing challenges as other players producing and offering animal feeds in the market are integrators and compete with their customers directly. Secondly, disparity in innovation in business models as integrators focus on themselves and disenfranchise smallholder farmers and SMEs through monopolizing the market, resulting in missed opportunities in achieving inclusive impact. And lastly, Other subsectors like aquaculture have no local feed manufacturers and solely depend on imports, which is highly unsustainable for the country's forex reserves. Lenzimil addresses these three gaps through the following solutions. Firstly, expanding market share for poultry feeds via expansion of an inclusive proof of concept egg hub model. Developed and expanded regionally and internationally by Lenzimil founders, the egg hubs improve availability and accessibility of nutritious, fresh, and locally produced eggs in rural communities. Lenzimil supports smallholder farmers with high quality inputs, training, access to finance and markets. This is coupled with social marketing campaigns to create mass awareness of eggs amongst mothers and pregnant and lactating women. Ultimately, Lenzimil wins with continued and consistent demand for its poultry feeds with the expansion of the egg hub model. Secondly, Lenzimil plans to roll out production of floating fish feeds to address the lack thereof and stimulate Malawi aquaculture sector for expansion. And finally, Lenzimil plans to invest in innovative and inclusive demand creation models for fish feed. Following the success of the egg hub, Lenzimil would set up fish hubs to expand fish production and subsequently demand for fish feeds. Our current product portfolio is predominantly poultry feeds, which has been certified by MBS, Malawi Bureau of Standards, and has a reputation of high quality. Our feeds sell out quite fast and often, and our current production sits at 1,500 metric tons per annum at full capacity. With the recently procured equipment, which is expected in October 2021, Lenzimil will be able to produce both poultry and other livestock feeds. We plan to expand into floating fish feed production as the equipment comes with an extruder, and our capacity for poultry feed will increase 16-fold with simultaneous capacity to produce 4,800 metric tons per annum of floating fish feed. Finally, we are exploring the establishment of fingerling production to address market shortages and ensure feed mill capacity is not disrupted due to lack of fish to feed. Our target capacity will see 3.5 million fingerlings production, whose outgrower will cover at least 1/3 of the fish feed capacity in the new equipment. Lenzimil raised finance in 2021 and procured a high-capacity feed milling equipment valued at $390,000. This comes with increased capacity of animal feed production that will result in opportunities to sustainably boost fish production in Malawi, increase production to meet demand of our poultry feed sales, opportunities to expand into export markets, opportunities to enter fingerling production, and subsequently, opportunities to adapt the egg hub model into the aquaculture subsector. The new equipment will also give us the chance to explore other new product offerings due to excess capacity, such as creating import substitutes in domestic animal and other livestock feeds. Ultimately, we anticipate increased production of fish, and using our egg hub model, Lenzimil plans to explore value addition of fish and thereafter exporting all new product offerings into the region in response to Africa Free Trade Agreement. Presently, Lenzimil sees traction in both the poultry and fish feed product offerings, especially with the incoming equipment. We can now actively expand the egg hubs countrywide as a result of assured capacity to meet increased demand for smallholder farmers for poultry feeds. With focus on egg hubs, our current capacity will increase from 1,500 metric tons per annum to 4,000 metric tons per annum, excluding sales to semi-commercial and non-egg hub customers. With the introduction of fish hubs in Lake Malawi's Chipoka region, a total of 35 smallholder farmers have been recruited who will take up at least 200 metric tons of floating fish feed per annum. This demand, coupled with Lenzimil's future own fish production via cage culture and demand from other commercial players, the anticipated target of 3,000 metric tons of fish feed per annum is anticipated. Lenzimil appreciates its competitors in the animal feed sector. However, our strengths lie in the investment of the egg hubs on the poultry feed product offering, where integrators are not interested to venture into, as the hubs are direct competitors. Meanwhile, with imported fish feed VAT removal, Lenzimil has been flexible enough to move its operation to the southern district, which is far from port of entry for cheap feed in the central region, and coincidentally, closer to the lakeshore region where commercial aquaculture activities take place, and close to Mozambique, where there is export demand for all animal feeds. Lenzimil has ambitious yet achievable goals in the medium term. Aside from immediately producing floating fish feed for the retail market of Malawi, we anticipate expanding the egg hub into the southern and northern region of Malawi to boost poultry feed demand, as well as set up fish hubs for both cage and pond fish farmers. Next slide, please. We are adamant in investing into fingerling production and in the long term expansion into cage fish farming on Lake Malawi. Lenzimil is seeking blended finance in the form of grants, equity, and debt to cater for expansion goals. Medium term, we are seeking about $800,000 for expanding the egg and fish hub, where $200,000 has already been secured as grant and interest-free loans. We're looking for partners who can invest in our business, both equity and debt, with $1 million for working capital for the feed mill and another $1 million for commercial cage fish farming. Finally, we're looking for debt financing to set up the commercial fish hatchery capable of producing 3.5 million fingerlings per annum. Our debt request would have a maximum of 10% interest rate and payback period of 4 years, whereas equity offering is up to 20% of the business. Lenzimil accounts have been quite healthy since the commencement of the business operations in 2018 to end of 2020. We have been cash flow positive and maintained a good balance sheet. Despite the impacts of COVID-19 last year, which impacted our profits, we foresee improved revenues and profits in 2021 and beyond as a result of the increased capacity from the new feed mill plant. Furthermore, should we achieve this investment ask that I've requested, we anticipate increasing turnover by 400% and attaining sizable profits as our overheads will only increase in the new product offering of the fingerling production and cage culture activities. Most overheads in our egg hub and current poultry feed business will only see an increase in distribution costs as we ramp up feed sales nationwide and for export markets. Our balance sheet will also improve due to new assets procured and increased liquidity. Next slide, please. The expected social benefits we anticipate from the new equipment will see more raw materials demand from smallholder farmers in the form of soya and maize, impacting 2,000 smallholder farmers on the supply side. With the expansion of the egg hub, an additional 50 groups will be set up, therefore impacting 300 farmers on the demand side. We also expect a conservative 20% improvement on smallholder farmers' incomes from our baseline figures. From the aquaculture sector, we foresee 1,400 pond fish farmers having consistent and affordable high-quality feeds for the first time, with potential to improve their production output by 50%. Most importantly, local fish feed production presents forex savings for Malawi to the value of approximately $3.3 million per annum. Ultimately, from a business perspective, the increased capacity results in increased revenues and subsequent profits. I would like to thank you for your attention and your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maya. That was powerful, and thank you for sharing the investment opportunities in fish feed as well as poultry feed. Thank you so much. And then to the audience, Maya will be available to respond to any other question after the other panelists. So, and she also, she can also share some more information in case you need more information about Lenzi and the ask and what their growth plans. Thank you so much, Maya.
Thank you.
As we proceed, we want to stay in investment opportunities in aquaculture by looking at another different product, and that will be shared by Florence Mwangonde. Florence, go ahead and share with us investment opportunities in aquaculture and what Vipya Chambo is up to. Thank you so much and welcome, Mrs. Mwangonde.
Thank you. Good morning from Malawi. Mrs. Florence Mwangonde, Managing Director for Vipya Chambo. Vipya Chambo is a family business which started from a humble background of one fish pond measuring 300 square meters. Initially, the pond was meant to produce for home consumption after we discovered that the land we procured was not doing well for crops. The soils were waterlogged. So we decided to have one pond. The catch was too much for home consumption. So we decided to sell some. We sold in no time. Later on, I and my husband, we got excited with the positive feedback that the fish was so tasty compared to the fish from Lake Malawi. Then we constructed 4 more ponds. That is in 2012. We kept expanding. And in 2015, we had a total of 12 ponds on 2.5 hectares. Currently, Vipya Chambo has 13 ponds on 3.5 hectares. Next slide, please. The company identified 2 gaps, that is fresh tilapia and fish seed. The demand for fresh tilapia is expected to grow from 25 metric tons per annum to 40 metric tons by 2025. Hence, an opportunity for Victor Jumbo. But also we looked at fish seed fingerlings. Victor Jumbo is the only producer of quality fish seed, with Madeco only producing for its own use. Next slide, please. The company is expanding its sales through smallholder farmers on an off-take arrangement. We piloted with 72 farmers, most of whom are women. But right now, we have already identified 550 smallholder farmers. Medium term, we are looking at working with 1,800 smallholder farmers. We are also looking at expanding our production of quality fish seed. The fish seed will be for the contracted farmers on off-take arrangement, but also for other SMEs and commercial producers. Next slide, please. Those are the company products, that is fresh tilapia and fingerlings, that is fish seed. Next slide, please. As I pointed out already, the company will raise its revenue through the off-take arrangement, that is, will increase from 600 smallholder farmers short-term to 1,800 medium-term, and will also increase fish seed production. The demand for fish feed is growing to 60 million fingerlings per annum by 2025. Next slide. The company produced 800,000 fingerlings this year. If we get the investment, it will help us to increase production from 800 to 2.5 million fingerlings by 2025. These fingerlings will be for the smallholder farmers on contract arrangement, for the other SMEs and commercial producers. Next slide, please. Currently, there is a shortfall of 25 metric tons per annum in Mzuzu and surrounding areas. Proximity to the market ensures that our product is fresh and that maintains taste of the fish and compared to other fish products. There's very minimal competition on fish seed, with Madeco producing a few that they cannot even satisfy their own demand. We have public hatcheries that do not produce sex-reversed seed that our company produces. Our quality fingerlings has a high growth rate as evidenced from the pilot model. Next, please. As investment, the company is asking for an indoor hatchery. The indoor hatchery will help improve survival of the fingerlings from 50% pond-based to 90%. We are also asking for floating feed meal. As you know, feed cost takes up to 70% of the total production cost. The floating feed that we produce will be for the smallholder farmers on the off-take arrangement and for the company. This will help us to cut costs by 40%. Currently, there's no floating fish feed in Malawi. The feed is imported from Zambia. But also, as the company, we're looking for a 3-ton freezer van to serve the 600 smallholder farmers on the off-take arrangement. Currently, we have 1-ton freezer van. Next, please. The company is looking for $178,000 US short term, but medium term, we're looking at $500,000 US. Victor Jumbo will use the money to procure the 3 more vehicles that we need to serve the 1,800 smallholder farmers. We are also going to procure, we procure another floating feed production line with a production capacity of 2 tons per hour to serve the 1,800 smallholder farmers. Victor Chambo prefers impact investor with soft loans. Next slide, please. If we look at the benefits, the smallholder farmers on the offtake arrangement will benefit from the fast growing seed and the reliable market, translating to more income in their pockets. But there is also ripple productivity and income benefits to smallholder farmers and commercial producers that will buy fish seed from Victor Chambo. Of the 72 smallholder farmers that are on our offtake arrangement, more than 50% are women, and a good number of them are youth. We impacted economically through better prices during the offtake arrangement. But also, if you look at the environmental impact, globally, carbon emissions from fish are comparatively low compared with the environmental cost of red meat, such as beef and lamb, which is estimated to range from 50 kilos to as much as 700 kilos for carbon per kilo of meat. But also we look at fish as a healthier protein with omega-3 compared to beef at omega-6. Thank you so much for your time and for your listening.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Florence Mangonde. Thank you so much for that particular pitch, and you've clearly described the products that you're working on, and the audience. Mrs. Mangonde is also available for further engagement and interaction, even after this session. So if you have any other question for Mrs. Mangonde, please type in the chat box, and then we'll have time to interact and to engage with her after our next presentation. So next to pitch is the director of Nyaruanga Farms. So we are moving into poultry value chain. So let me invite Cecilia Mseteka. She's a passionate businesswoman who is part of the she's managing Nyaruanga Farms. So let me not preempt what she's going to say. Let me welcome Mrs. Cecilia Mseteka. Share with us the investment opportunities in poultry. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cecilia Mseteka, and I'm the Managing Director, Founder, and Owner of Nyaruanga Farms. It is my pleasure and privilege to take you through this presentation on Nyaruanga Farms. Nyaruanga Farms is a poultry farm based in Choma Agriculture Area, Mzuzu, in the northern region of Malawi. Malawi is comprised of 3 regions, namely Northern, Central, and Southern region. Mzuzu is the main town in the northern region. Lilongwe, which is about 354 kilometers from Mzuzu, is the main town in the central region. And Blantyre, the main town in the southern region, is about 606 kilometers away from Mzuzu. As you can see, these details are important to provide context on the dynamics within which Nyaruanga operates. Nyaruanga was established in 2012 and registered as a company in August of 2014. We started our production in 2015 with only 3 chicken houses. And over the years, we have expanded production and now have 7 chicken houses with a production of around 19,000 chickens per cycle. Annually, we have around 6 to 7 cycles, which amounts to approximately 133,000 chickens a year. We expect to increase production by another 3 chicken houses over the next 3 years. This will increase our production by approximately 57,000 per year. Next slide. The larger players in the poultry industry are situated in the central and southern regions of Malawi, which, as mentioned earlier, are quite a distance away from Mzuzu. Nyaluwanga Farms' day-old chicks and the feed come from these companies, and this makes the end product more expensive because this now, incorporates transport costs. In the short term, next slide, please. In the short term, Nyaluwanga Farms is looking to invest in a feed mill to allow the company to use that feed for its own chickens, thus bringing down the production cost, as well as selling to the other people and companies in the northern region. We estimate that this will reduce our feed cost by approximately 30% and make it easier for people in the region to access affordable feed. This also will provide us with a good stream of extra income. And this will in turn expand our business through our inclusive supply chain involving smallholder farmers who will benefit by having an income and reduce hunger in the process from the soya and the maize that they will be supplying to us. Next slide. In the medium term, we want to upgrade the abattoir and increase the freezing capacity to accommodate all the chickens that we'll be buying back from the smallholders. And our long term will be to broaden our access to day-old chicks by investing in a hatchery. Nyaluwanga Farms aims to double its chicken output within the next 2 years. Our main products are live chickens, frozen chickens with their chicken parts, and manure as a byproduct. Next slide. Our business model includes the smallholder farmers who will be supplying us with soya and maize for feed. The maize and soya that we'll be getting from the smallholder farmers will be used for our feed production, as well as selling the chickens that they'll be producing for processing. This provides the smallholder farmers with a ready-made market for their products, whilst enabling Nyaluwanga Farms to produce feed for its consumption and to sell to the other farmers in the region. Nyaluwanga Farm will also process the chickens from the smallholder farmers, increasing its production and the capacity to stock its outlet shops. Nyaluwanga Farms will actually be the first company, next slide, will be the next company, first company to invest in a feed mill in the north. If we have our feed mill, hatchery, and abattoir in the northern region, we will have a potential to make more money to serve Mzuzu and all the surrounding districts with affordable poultry input. And this will increase our revenue steadily. We've had a steady increase in the last few years by about 10%. In 2020, the production went down a bit due to COVID, but we have seen that now we are steadily increasing our revenue. So this is a good sign for us. Nyaluwanga Farm will be the first company to invest in a feed mill, a hatchery, and abattoir in the northern region, with potential to serve Mzuzu City and all surrounding districts with affordable poultry input. To our competitors are Central Poultry, who are in the central and southern region, as well as Kel Foods, who are Proto. They are in the southern region. So you can see what I was talking about, that our input comes from very far. So with all the transport added onto this, it actually makes our products more expensive. So it would be nice for us to have our own production of feed, as well as the chicks within Mzuzu, which is in the northern. To achieve all this, Nyaluwanga Farms Limited, whose equity is $739,300, we are looking to getting an investment of $175,000 with a payback of about 5 years. As the demand for chickens is relatively stable with frequent turnover, the investors may be rest assured of the viability of this business venture. I thank you very much for your attention, and please do feel free to ask if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. That was quite good, and thank you for elaborating, what Nyaluwanga Farms is doing currently, and the growth plan, and the ask to boost as well as to grow from where you are currently. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Now we'll move into plenary, where we can interact with our panelists. I already see questions in the chat box. And if you have a particular question that you want to ask, you can raise your hand and then I'll be able to notice you. But first, let me go to the chat box. I will invite Pilila. There are two questions for you from the chat box. So Pilila, if you were around, and then there was a question that was asking about, what is the criteria? What are the question from Stafford Francis? What are the aftercare services by examples? Please, are there eligibility criteria for the same? Let me invite Pilila. Are you around to just briefly? I know there's so much information that is available on the website, but just a minute or two, would you mind to respond to that? Pilila?
Thank you very much, Frank. For the aftercare, the first thing is that you have to be registered with MITC, because this is offered to those that are operating under the investment certificate. So the criteria is that one has got to have an investment certificate, and also at least one has to be on the ground, at least starting to put up the business, or they are actually operating. That's the main criteria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pilila, for that elaborate. And just to mention that Pilila is also around, then we can engage with her separately if you want more information. The other question that is coming to you, Pilila, is from Sylvester. He's asking, what are the capital requirements to be allowed as an investor in Malawi?
The minimum at the moment is $50,000 US in the priority sectors that government has set. The ones that I mentioned, like the agro-processing, agriculture, mining, but the minimum should be $50,000 US.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pilila, for that. The next question in the chat box is coming from, sorry if I misspelled your name, Cyrus. It's going to Maya. He says, wonderful presentation. In Liberia, we have a challenge of poultry feed despite very promising sector. How can government de-risk subsidy in poultry feed? Through what window could such subsidy be sustainable? Maya, do you mind to unmute and then respond to that particular question?
Thank you, Francis. Sorry, Frank. I think the question here is about subsidizing. How can government incentivize? And I'm glad that we've got the likes of MITC also on the phone or in this call. what I could say is that you need to have a government that is also proactive, similar to what Pilira mentioned, what MITC is doing, encouraging people to invest into the sector, giving them tax breaks. One of the things that an investor is always supported by government is giving them opportunities to get tax breaks and making their production processes much cheaper. From a feed perspective, the way that or how Malawi has really helped us, the government rather has helped us, is ensuring that we have a big supply side of raw materials. So things, or raw materials such as soya and maize, is abundantly produced in the country. And that's the reason why I said on the supply side, we are already supporting a lot of smallholder farmers, but it requires government to invest in that subsector. So on the supply side, you need to make sure that the basic raw materials for any poultry feeds are readily available. If you have maize, if you've got soya, I'm sure in Liberia, you probably work with cassava, or even sorghum. These are all ingredients that can go into poultry feeds. I would like to also emphasize the fact that any kind of feed actually on an animal perspective should not compete with the, I want to call it food security. And we need to make sure that both are being sustainably sourced. So if we're talking about a country like Liberia, I'm assuming you possibly are investing in cassava. Don't go and invest in cassava and the poultry sector comes in to try and take on that the production that is there for human consumption. Instead, you need to work with government, or government needs to work with the private sector to boost productivity, to ensure that you have enough raw materials to manufacture the poultry or any other animal feeds for that matter. We also encourage that you use byproducts. For example, some of the byproducts that we use in poultry feeds is soya cake. So this is after you've processed the soya to get your oil. We use soya cake as adding protein into the feeds. We also use other byproducts such as rice bran after rice milling, wheat bran, as well as sunflower cake after pressing it for oil. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maya. It shows that, the passion that you have and the massive experience that you have in the sector. Thank you so much for that. And I can already see the further engagements with the participants. So looking forward to that. Next question goes to Mrs. Cecilia Msetega from Evangelista. She's asking, Mrs. Cecilia, I would like to know how you and your outgrowers brood your chicks, as well as the source of heat for use. Over to you, Mrs. Msetega.
Thank you very much. Well, we have been training the smallholder farmers in how they can look after their chickens. So what we've actually done is that when most of the people in the rural areas use the local chickens for production, but that is very difficult and it takes long for the chickens to mature. That takes about five months. So what we've done is that we're training our smallholder farmers in how they can do free-range chickens using the broilers. So this gives them 7 weeks, at least, for them to be able to get income quickly. And on your question on how we keep the chickens warm, is we've taught them a way of keeping the chickens warm by, well, not using charcoal, because that is not allowed in Malawi. So we're using gas, and gas now is readily available, and they're able to buy the small cylinders, which cost just about 50,000 kwacha, and that is what they are using. So we are trying to sustain and make sure that trees are not chopped willy-nilly for them to keep those chickens warm. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cecilia. That also shows the passion and the vast experience in this industry. Thank you so much, and I hope the participant, you've responded to. If you need further clarity, Mrs. Msetega, she's around, that you can reach out. Moving forward, thank you so much for the information on the chat box shared. Thank you for Farid from Iran for sharing your details. I'm sure our panelists will be able to get in touch, and other participants also on the call. Thank you so much, our panelists, for sharing that particular information. Next question comes from Emmanuel. He's asking all the panelists, what are the strategic sustainability mechanisms you have in place? What are the strategic mechanisms that you have put in place? This goes to all our panelists. So I will just give you a minute to respond to that particular question. What are some of the examples of sustainability mechanisms that you have put in place? Let me start with you, Maya, 1 minute, and then Mrs. Mangonde, and then Mrs. Cecilia.
Thank you, Frank. From the perspective of sustainability, one of the things that we had to do to make sure that the company is not impacted, I think I mentioned it in my presentation, not being impacted by VAT removal from fish feeds. We were able to move our activities from the central region down to the southern region. And one of the things that we need to make sure that we put a focus on, because Malawi is predominantly a landlocked country, we are a net importer. What we are trying to also do from a manufacturing perspective is to boost our exports within the country. We have the capacity now with our new equipment that has been procured to now manufacture to feed the entire country, so to speak, and anything in excess, we would like to enter into the export market. That will make not only our business sustainable, because we do have to still import some items, some raw materials, such as the vitamins for the animal feeds, and that requires Forex. And if the country does not have accessibility to Forex, we will be challenged. Therefore, we need to create that model whereby we are able to export, get some Forex that will allow us to then in the future purchase other commodities, but also at the same time, improving our Forex reserves in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. Thank you so much. Mrs. Mangonde, just a minute. What are some of the strategies you have put in place?
As I already pointed out in my presentation, we are looking at working with smallholder farmers, upscaling each and every level to make sure that even though our land is not adequate, we can scale up our production by working with the smallholder farmers. But also we are looking at increasing production of fingerlings. We know the demand is rising each and every time for fresh fish as well as the fingerlings. But also our main source of fish is the lake. And we are aware that the fish in the lake is dwindling every time. So we are upscaling our production through off-take arrangements, but also raising our production of fingerlings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mrs. Nseteka, a minute, please. Please unmute your mic.
Thank you. What we have done with Nyaluvanga Farms is working with smallholder farmers as well. It's going to give us a lot of the production that is required. Right now, we are not able to manage the demand that is there for poultry, because poultry is a cheaper source of protein that is required by for health reasons. And so in order for us to be able to sustain and be able to feed the nation, we have involved smallholder farmers who will be able to help with that. But apart from that, we are also increasing our production so that we are also able to provide the country with chickens. We're not only going to look at the northern region, we're looking at expanding our business. And the good part with the production of the feed that we said we'll be getting the input from the small scale farmers as well, is that Malawi produces soya. We produce a lot of maize. So a lot of the ingredients that we're going to need in order for us to reduce the cost of production by producing our own feed, this is going to come from within. So we have an advantage on that. So that is what is going to help sustain Nyaluwanga Farm in expansion. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much. In just some 30 seconds, there is a question here. Are you also looking at the regional and international markets in terms of your expansion plan vis-a-vis the competition from countries like Brazil?
Well, yes, but first of all, we would want to, make sure that Malawi has enough. And after that, yes, of course, we will look at expanding. And what will differentiate us from the likes of Brazil and so on is that, with mass production and what we are producing, there is a difference because our chickens will definitely be the best.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I see. I see. Yusuf, you raised your hand. Do you mind to quickly unmute? I give you less than a minute to quickly ask your question before we close. Thank you so much, Mrs. Mseteka.
thank you.
Yusuf, are you there? Yusuf, do you mind to ask the question? If not, let me go to Joseph. Joseph, Joseph, are you there? Okay, Joseph, are you there? You raised your hand. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's start with Joseph and then Yusuf. Let's start with Joseph as you.
Yes. It's an interesting.
We can hardly hear you.
Hello, sir.
Okay, so Joseph, we can hardly hear you, and let's try Yusuf. Yusuf, do you mind to quickly ask? Mm-hmm.
Good day, sir.
Good day. Good day. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I would like to ask question. You say she was talking about the production of the poultry feed and all that. Because here in Nigeria, we have all this. What our problem is the vaccine and the medication for this poultry feeds.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're talking about the challenge in Nigeria as in vaccine and something like that? Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Because in my local area, sir, where it's been difficult for us to have a correct vaccine and medication for this. I think if there is any traditional way of producing our vaccine, let us know, because we are
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I hear you. And I'll link you to Mrs. Mseteka, and then she would be able to share more information about that. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry that she will not be able to respond because we are on top of the hour. So let me thank you all. Thank you so much, our panelists, for sharing with us your pitches, and thank you so much, Pilila, for sharing with us information about MITC. And please, you're also welcome to the Malawi Malawi presentation that you can learn more about MITC. And thank you so much, our investors, our distinguished participants, for participating in this particular knowledge session. And then let me assure you that the questions that you're asking on the chat box will be responded to even after this call. Thank you so much for your attention, and we look forward to engage with you further beyond this particular session. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for your attendance. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Mm-hmm.